seat and sit down. little tent. Oh, and just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Lord, there have been times that I thought I could last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
Listen, everybody, I got an idea. I think we ought to write a letter to the Congress of the United States and tell them what's on our minds. Because we're the richest country in the world, and I just can't understand why we got so many hungry people. You know, I believe we ought to say something like this. Hey, mister, you better listen. Oh, mister, you better listen. Mama got to wash the rich folk clothes just to keep the rich man from throwing us out the doors. Papa look for work with the morning sun, but tell me, how can you find a job when there just ain't none? Now, hey, legislation, if you can fix the nation, why don't you open up your heart and listen to this part? Wait a minute. A little child asked for bread with tears in his eyes. Mama said, we ain't got none. And then they both cried. Don't you hear him? I said, don't you hear him? Damn it, don't you hear him? What the hell wrong with you then? Listen, the world needs love. I know you admit it. What you doing to the poor man? Lord knows you ought to quit it. How can he love you? Tell me, how can he smile when back at home there's a hungry little child? Hey, legislation, why don't you try a new route? Listen to the people and hear what they're talking about. You see, the Pope...
quotes from alums and invite them into our conversation tonight to give you a sense of the PLS experience. Like, I'm going to start with this one. These are all anonymous, so I won't give it to you. The PLS program is unequivocally the greatest leadership program that I've been a part of. Simply put, there is no other leadership program that takes professionals from different fields at the top of their game and cohesively creates an environment that builds relationships, trust, and partnership. So my goal tonight is twofold, which is to first help you learn more about PLS and how it fits into the philosophy and the values of the Clinton Foundation. Oh my goodness. Do I need? I'll let you do that. Okay, there we go. So nobody heard anything online, as just said, but that's okay. So one is to help you understand better the program, but the other one is really to learn more about the good work that our guests that are here with us tonight, the alumni of the program, are doing, because they really are representative of the now almost 540 alumni that we have in our program. The program itself is a partnership among 4 presidential centers, the Clinton Foundation, the George W. Bush Institute in Dallas, Texas, the George H.W. Bush Foundation in College Station, and the Lyndon B. Johnson Foundation in Austin, Texas, and all 4 of those presidential centers and their staffs help us in presenting the program to our participants. The day-to-day operations of the program are managed by the Clinton Foundation and the staff at the Bush Institute. And it's a partnership that originally, early on in the program, surprised the participants when they would arrive at the first module and see how well the staff of the 2 organizations got along, and I'll talk a bit about that in just a second. But it really is, the program is what it is because of the partnership and the strong partnership that we have with the Bush Institute in Dallas. And to that end, Kelly Zhu, who was my colleague at the Bush Institute, recorded a brief welcoming for everybody here to the session tonight, so we could play that.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Zhu, Director of Leadership and Programming at the George W. Bush Institute and Co-Director of Presidential Leadership Scholars. On behalf of the Bush Institute, welcome to the Clinton Center. We are so glad that you're here this evening to learn more about the impact of PLS. 537 alumni strong, 3 of whom you're going to hear from on stage today, as well as from my friend, my colleague, and co-director of the program, Mike Hemphill. We are so proud to be part of this partnership with the Clinton Foundation. We're celebrating 10 years this year as y'all celebrate 20 years of the impact of the Clinton Center. We look forward to you learning more about these amazing leaders, the program itself, and how these leaders are making positive change and impact in their communities and in the world. We hope you have a wonderful time this evening, and we hope you learn more about the program. Have fun.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. I really do appreciate that. And it's just been one of the real joys of this program for me has been the ability to work with that, with the team at the Bush Institute. A couple of months ago, we had Jean Becker here and did one of these sessions, and she spoke very affectionately about the relationship between President Clinton and President Bush Sr., and really the relationship between President Clinton and the 2 Presidents Bush. And in many ways, what we do in PLS is a reflection of that relationship that the 2 of them have, which was surprising to a lot of people because they obviously had very different political perspectives. But as President Clinton is often saying, they found that there was much more to their commonality with one another than their interesting differences. And so I think that's the spirit of that collaboration, the spirit of that value runs deep in PLS. Before I tell you about the way structures PLS, I thought we might be interesting. I was just going to ask you guys, when you tell people you're in PLS, and I mean, so how do you answer the question about, well, so what is PLS? Kathy?
Sure, I'll start. You know, I have to say, when someone encouraged me to apply, I thought, I'm way too old, and I'm probably a little too senior in my career, and it's just not for me. And then I got another nudge maybe a week later, like, okay, your application is due in a couple of days. And I said, okay, I'm going to put in for this. I mean, this is a really compelling program. Let's see how it goes. Well, I was lucky enough to be accepted. And when I arrived, a couple of things surprised me. How extraordinary my fellow partners were in the program. They're just absolutely the most wonderful, accomplished, energetic, and brilliant colleagues one could have. And every day, I think we learned from each other and did what exactly the program was set out to do, is do a little bit more listening than talking, and hearing from different perspectives about what this country can be. And I have to say that this group that we came together to create has been together ever since. I was in the class of 23, so we speak almost daily on a group text or two. There are different channels depending if you want to talk policy or if you just want to catch up on what's happening on other aspects of your lives. But I think that when I heard about the program and knew that the agenda was really to bring Americans back together again and to make a more cordial discourse on some of the challenges facing this country, I was actually overwhelmed by the optimism and the progress that those discussions kind of developed.
Jamie?
I think I didn't even know about the Presidential Leadership Program, but I was completing a program at Harvard, a leadership program, and there were so many students there talking about professionals, not students, students, professionals from all over the world, and they were talking about the presidential program, and I was like, what presidential program? And so I'm in class, like researching it and trying to figure out what everybody else trying to get into next, and it has truly just been like life-changing to be able to sit in sessions with former presidents and see their vulnerability and see what they admire about other presidents and see the closeness that they have and be able to transform some of those qualities and values and expand as a professional and how that can help me, like just right now in policy. But it was truly transformational. I mean, I was not expecting it to have the impact that it had on me. I mean, I was not expecting to leave the program and be a big fan of the Bushes. Growing up as a young Dem in my party, but having so much just appreciation for the decisions they made as leaders, the weight of the presidency, and just learning and being exposed to just a lot more than what we see on national TV. So you can't really explain it. I mean, the program, it's magical. If you have an opportunity to sit under presidents, they come into the class, and in their cabinet members, and them talk about Hurricane Katrina and just other things that happened during the different presidencies and how they made decisions, if they were the right decision or not, and how important it is to surround yourself with good advisors. I mean, like all of it is important to what I do today, but I can't really explain it. I know I didn't do a great job, but I mean, it's a lifetime opportunity if you get an opportunity to apply for it. I mean, I didn't even think I was going to get in. When I got in, I was surprised. I was like, how I get in? But I'm grateful for the opportunity. But like you said, it's so much that you can take from it. And I did like that. It was younger, older. I can learn from everybody. Everybody brought something different. And we have people in my class that weren't even from the United States.
A lot of immigrants. A lot of immigrants.
Yes.
In the program.
So it was, just being able to be exposed to what's going on in different countries and what their issues were and how they were trying to navigate the change in their country. So, I'm grateful. I know I didn't do a great job. I'll let the GOAT explain it.
I thank you, but also I am so just delighted to be on stage with both of y'all, and of course with you, Mike. But like, these women really are leaders in our state and our community, and so just thank you for being here. So for me, I actually had someone invite me to, I don't know if it was a PLS graduation or, I think it was someone who, I'll say who it was, Jill Floyd. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Jill Floyd, good friend of mine, and her company had thrown her like a congratulatory event. And so she's like, you should come to this event. And so I got introduced to PLS then, and then because I have such respect for Jill, I was like, I think I should do this. Like, I want to be like Jill. And applied. Wasn't sure I was going to get in. But as you noted at the time, Yeah, that's right. But at the time, I was working with Governor Hutchinson. You may recall that Governor Hutchinson had worked in the Bush administration, Bush 43 administration. I had worked in the Bush 43 administration, obviously now living in Arkansas. And so beyond wanting to follow other strong women leaders was this deep and abiding interest in seeing bipartisanship work. And what I then found was this incredible network of professionals who are deeply committed to their communities, who we still do talk. I was the class of 2020 to 2022 because we were the COVID kids, but we still talk every day. I'm going to give a shout out because many of them are watching, so thank you for being here. We still talk every day, and it is channels everything from policy and what's going on at the conventions to what is happening on Love Island. I mean, it is that diverse of a set of interests. And then watching people grow in their careers has just been such a great joy to be able to support them in their success.
Yeah, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with some alumni, and one of the alums described the experience of PLS. He said, you know, had a very rare outcome, which is I made new friends at the age of 40, and which I thought really, in a big way, captures part of that experience. Well, I'm going to share with you sort of how the program is structured, but as you've heard, obviously the presidents have a strong presence in this program, and President Bush and President Clinton are actively involved in it. We've got a clip I want to show you from 2014 from the museum in D.C. It's no longer there, but this is where we held the announcement of PLS. And President Clinton and President Bush were there. President Bush, 41, was in Kennebunkport and sent a letter down congratulating everybody for the start of the program. But you'll get a sense of the relationship as you watch this video clip.
When we're presented with a problem, we know everything about and we understand the main players. But the best leaders have enough imagination and empathy that they can feel the situation somebody's in that they've never been in. And Bush 41 was great about that. Otherwise, you know, he wouldn't have been out there plunking for the Americans with Disabilities Act. He could put himself in the position of someone who had a different life with different life possibilities and different life changes. I think that's one of the most important characteristics a leader can have, and he has always been great at that.
I met Lyndon Johnson twice. Once when I was visiting my grandfather, who was a colleague of his in the Senate, and once later on, when he'd retired back to Texas. He was a big guy. I was struck by how imposing his whole kind of physical being was. And I would suspect amongst the four that his strongest quality was his persuasiveness. Particularly to get the Civil Rights Bill passed. I mean, it's one of the greatest legislative feats in our nation's history. And Lyndon Johnson powered it through. And I don't think we're going to be able to teach size. But I will think people will be able to be inspired by his lesson.
Each year we visit the presidential centers, and if you haven't been to the LBJ library, I strongly suggest you carve out time to do it, just so you can see the display of pens that were used to sign all the legislation that was passed in the 6 years that he was in office, almost all of which is still impactful today, and all of which was bipartisan. It really is a dramatic testimony to that presidency. Well, you get a feel for the sort of what guides us in our program in terms of the relationship among these presidents and the respect they have for one another and the inspiration they're able to provide. Let me real quickly just lead you through how the program works. We select 60 people every year, a dramatically diverse group of individuals, as intentionally diverse as we can possibly make it, across demographics, area of the country, job sectors, people that are working in the public sector, people working for profits, for nonprofits, people working in government, the military, people who are focused on making their communities a better place, no matter how they define community. And for some of our participants, their community that they're working on is the people on their street. And for others, it's people across the globe and everything in between. We've already heard a pretty nice range of ages. People who've been working on doing their work for a long, long time, people who are just starting out, really trying to maximize the differences within the group. And our goal every year is to bring 60 people in who we feel that if it weren't for our program, their paths would never have crossed. And then to spend 6 months with them focused on their leadership by studying the principles of vision and communication, decision-making, building strategic partnerships, and influence and persuasion as it relates to the leadership they're bringing to the work that they're doing. We have 6 modules that start in January and go through June. We start off in Washington, D.C. We then visit each of the 4 presidential centers, and then we wrap up in Philadelphia these last couple of years for our final celebratory and reflection of the program. During that time, at each module, we have guest speakers. Those guest speakers, when they come to Little Rock, they hear from President Clinton. When we go to Dallas, they hear from President Bush. At every single stop, we hear from alumni of those administrations. There are not many alumni of the LBJ administration left, but at some point over the last 10 years, I think we've heard from every single one of them. And then we have guest faculty that come in to talk about these various topics, and other speakers from business and from the community. And they share their insights and their experiences and their stories with the group that relates to leadership. But we're not a presidential studies program. We don't study and evaluate how effective these presidents were. And in fact, at every single module, we're talking about issues that there's a pretty healthy difference in the group about whether or not the decision we're talking about they agreed with or not. We're not a policy analysis program. We are a look at the process program. And our biggest interest is in hearing from all of these individuals how they faced leadership challenges in their career, and how hearing about that can help the participants in the cohort face the leadership challenges that they're facing. So everything we do in the program is designed to really develop the relationships among the people in the cohort and to help them become better in their leadership that they bring. Every participant in our program brings a project with them, something that they're currently working on, and in that case, the program serves as kind of a lab. They have something that they can take what we're talking about in the program and apply it to the current work that they're doing. We really do focus on the relationships. I've been telling people, a couple of years ago, I asked that we no longer refer to our program's curriculum because it sounds like content delivery. And instead, I've been promoting this idea that what we're really doing is curating an experience among the participants so that they really do develop relationships, meaningful relationships with one another. The other thing that I wanted to mention to everybody is that the program operates so that every participant participates at no cost, except for the very valuable time that they give us. And we realize they are giving us a significant chunk of their time because we're asking for basically 3 days a month for 6 months. And I mean, they show up on Thursday noon and leave Saturday lunch, and from 7 in the morning until 9, and they're ours. And every moment.
Sometimes later, if President Clinton is there.
Oh, if President, yeah, yes, yeah, yeah, that's a good point. But it's because of our donors that so believed in this idea that we have the resources that we're able, so anybody that we select in the program can participate. And nobody doesn't participate because they can't afford it. Their out-of-pocket expenses, whatever it takes for them to get from their home to the nearest airport. And so it really does add, I think, to the quality of the experience that we have with everybody. Well, our theme tonight is on discover, collaborate, and take action. So what we're going to do is I'm going to break each of those 3 things down to aspects of the program, and then see what your reaction is. I shared with you that one of our goals is to create the most diverse, heterogeneous group of people in every single cohort that we possibly can. And we think that's a really strong appeal for people that are interested in our program. You talked a little bit about how you describe PLS to folks, and you shared a little bit about the thought process that went in. But was there something particular about PLS that appealed to you that kind of motivated your interest in applying?
For me, whatever is in the sauce that y'all do for selecting a cohort, it is magic. It really is. But on the surface, what was interesting to me was being able to build a network out of a national network. So deeply embedded here in Arkansas and have a network here, but for me, looking outside of the state and saying, what can I do to build relationships elsewhere in different industries, in different sectors, and that was very appealing to me.
Yeah. Kathy?
I would say that it's, what attracted me is just the historic nature of this and having access, like, Allison, you shared with, the former presidents and getting insight. And, I think the biggest takeaway was, regardless of where you are in your career, the context in which you're working, it always changes, and you are urgently in need of new tools and new solutions of how to grapple with what's in front of you. And I think that and the historic, and I've just loved politics. I was in Washington for 10 years. I went for 1 month to go to be an intern. I didn't leave for like 9 years. And I have to say that, being at the State Department, but then at the White House doing U.S. Sub-Saharan African policy, I really missed those days. But I always had so much from those years that I pulled from my political experiences about the partnerships and multi-sector initiatives that I needed to get back to those roots to understand how do I refresh those skills and apply it in a new context for what I'm dealing with right now. And it was magical. Yeah. I loved being with those officials from the previous administrations and reliving that history and having that insight to how those decisions were made.
Jamie, you shared with us sort of the thought process that you went through in applying to the program, but we talk about the diversity of the cohort. Was there anything, what's your takeaway from the heterogeneity of the group? Was there something surprising you learned about the group? Or
What was so surprising, first of all, the class is so big, and I really wanted to, you made us like lean in really fast like their family. That's what you told us. Everybody's your family the first day we met. Mm-hmm. And so I took a little notebook out, and I would just be on the bus trying to I wanted to know who their kids were. I wanted to have real close relationships with people because he said they were my family. So I had to get to know 60 people. And my class was so amazed at how serious I was about trying to really have that relationship with people. But I was really trying to get in the class and do what you told me to do because I thought that applying for PLS was going to give me the opportunity, which the foundations of the program, how do you craft solutions for some of the nation's greatest needs and the greatest problems you're seeing in your community? And how do I gain that knowledge and experience from people at such an executive national level to make real impact in Arkansas? So if they're telling me what to do and they work with these presidents, I'm going to do it. So I'm going to go get to meet people and I'm going to go get to know them. And so it helped me, though, as a legislator once I became, because I would coordinate bipartisan dinners with my colleagues. I would bring Democrats and Republicans together every other week, and I really got to know people. And it was so funny because one of the Republicans in the House was like, you have a way of making us all feel special. We all think we have a special relationship with you. And I don't know that I set out trying to do that, but I just really try to get to know people because when you do, you handle debates on the floor differently. I care about you as an individual, and if I know what you care about, I can figure out ways that we can work on different policy issues. If I know, your wife has cancer, one of the members' wife has cancer, and he was so far away from me on the political spectrum, me and him really didn't have nothing to, but I was like, I'm gonna find something that we can work on. But it's all because, in the program, you saw the relationships between the presidents that were different, but they found a way to make relationships with people who were different than them, who were raised in different backgrounds, different socioeconomic, different values. I never leave my value as a Democrat, but I do know that there's a greater cause and there are greater issues, and how do I find common ground so that I can have people help me carry the weight of those issues in my community, and how do I, in return, be the voice for rural Arkansas. I'm not from rural Arkansas, but I developed those relationships so that I can help them when we're talking about health disparities in the rural parts of the state. But relationships are everything. You can't do anything without relationships. And I feel like the program pushed that really fast. And so I was like, okay, let me go learn everybody in the program. And then once I became a legislator, I was like, okay, let me go figure out who everybody is. It's 100 House members and it's 35 senators.
I have done this before.
Yeah, I was like, okay, the program prepared me for this. Didn't know it was going to prepare me for that, but that's what it was preparing me for.
So we talk about Discover, and I think, so two of the things that emerge from this whole idea about bringing together groups of people that are really different from one another is there's discovery that happens, and part of the discovery is of others, of how others perceive the world and what their attitudes about things are. And Kathy mentioned earlier about taking the listening position, which is something we do a lot in PLS, and we always talk about the importance of listening to understand somebody without feeling obligated to agree with them. And that at some point, our guest speakers are really good at making this point, at some point you have to make decisions. And when you make those decisions, not everybody's going to like them. And you'll know, okay, we disagreed about that. But they're in that process, you listen to understand and don't worry about agreement, don't worry about correcting somebody, and really try to understand their perspective. You'll discover a lot. We asked folks that are watching the streaming to submit questions to us that we could ask the panel tonight. And I've got one from a good friend of Allison and mine. This is, I'll read it verbatim. This question's for Allison. Hi, Allison. This is your 2020 PLS classmate and friend, Jerry Hawkins. So much happened during our time in PLS. I want to know how you navigated and balanced what we were learning in PLS with what was happening in your state and what was happening in the country, in the world. And I'm going to broaden this with Jerry, hopefully with Jerry's permission.
It's a tacit agreement.
Okay. With the idea of being connected to so many people with so many different perspectives, and there's something going on all the time, how does that sort of play into the way in which you navigated what was going on in the state? And you were in the class that was dealing with a lot.
Yeah, so just to set the stage a little bit or bring us all onto the same page. So we were the COVID class because we were 2020, came in January. Of course, in March, the world changed dramatically for everyone. And that was the summer, of course, that George Floyd was killed. We had a number of other, but we had protests and other murders in the United States. We had protests here in Arkansas. And we also had we lost a member of our class to an unfortunate cycling accident. And so the cohort was really dealing with a lot on both a personal level and then on a global level. And so being in the position I was in as chief of staff to the governor of Arkansas, it was so important to have those tools of listening and collaboration and community to have been reinforced so recently, because it was completely dependent, whether we were responding to families who were in need of ventilators because they had family members who were in the hospital, or we were competing with other states for PPE, or we were responding to protests. Keeping in mind that there were other perspectives without having to embrace those perspectives as our own meant that we could be more, and I say we because it was not just the governor, we had a team of 25,000 state employees who were carrying this forward, but we could be compassionate in our statements. And you may recall that Governor Hutchinson was doing daily press conferences every day, including weekends. And that took a huge toll on our team. So not just how can we be compassionate to the community as they're affected, but how can we be compassionate to ourselves, and how can we be compassionate to our team members so we can all get through it together.
Yeah. Any other comments on that?
And I think that when I think about how do you manage some of these contentious issues that are happening, politically, and it impacts company policy. I mean, how do you raise these issues and bring people together to have honest, frank discussions? And it starts with making sure that you seek out those individuals who can help advance even the idea of a conversation. And that's something, I think it was, Mayor Andrew Young, who basically, when talking to us, was saying, there's always one person in the room who you can seek out in peace. And those kinds of skills about not having to go it alone, to bring people together, to find where are your allies, where can you bring people to have these conversations about what should the policy be on certain topics. I mean, I took pages of that guidance from PLS and marched it right back into my day-to-day job.
Yeah, so two things come to mind. Frequent comments that we get towards the end of the program. Invariably, I'll have a scholar or two come up to me and say, I've developed a deep friendship with, and they'll mention somebody else in the cohort, and then they'll say, before PLS, if I would have known that person's background, not only would I not have ever spoken to them, if I knew they were coming down the street, I'd walk across the street to keep from even running into them. And then another comment we get that I know both presidents would appreciate is that every year I'll have scholars come up to me and say, I'm really glad I was accepted into the program, but I was not looking forward to coming to Little Rock because I wasn't a real big fan of President Clinton. But boy, once we got there and we met him and we listened to it really changed my mind. Or they'll come up and say, I really wasn't looking forward to getting into the program because going to Dallas and meeting President Bush, I wasn't ever really a big fan of President Bush. But once I heard and talked, and I think one of the things that our program does is it humanizes leadership. And I think that's an important thing because too often we just see the mediated versions of these individuals. And when you are able to sit down and hear them talk about the process they engaged in, the mistakes they made, the things they thought they did right, it does promote the notion of I can still disagree, but I understand a whole lot better why that's the case. And so we think about discovery. In our program, we spend a lot of time in reflection. And so the one thing I wanted to share with all of you and everybody that's watching online is that I think we learn in the program that reflection, carving out time for reflection is a really important professional, personal leadership practice. And in fact, a lot of our scholars really enjoy that part of the program, to the point that this last cohort, we graduated a couple of weeks ago. We wrapped up the program a couple of weeks ago. And I'll get emails from the current cohort asking if I can call some special session of PLS so that we can all get together again because they're so comfortable with the routine of what we do. All right, so let's move on to the idea of collaboration now. So we talked about discovering others and discovering more about ourselves. One of the principles that I share with the group every year is that leadership is not something you do to somebody else. It's not something you have more or less of. Leadership is what emerges from the way we interact with people when we're working with them to face particular problems or particular challenges. And then I think one of the things that I always admire about the people that participate in our program is that I think they realize that the time you need to practice leadership the most are usually the times you don't want to. It's because somebody's made you upset or because it's a particularly difficult problem that's hard to find a solution to. And just the very fact that you can get 60 people to come together to say, I want to try to become better at that and increase my capacity at that, I think is really, really admirable. And so I want to ask another question that relates more to collaboration that builds off the notion of the network, okay? And one of our people that are watching online has asked this question from all of you. What are the top 3 benefits of being part of the PLS network? Now, you've already mentioned a couple of them, but is there anything more specific or anything in particular you could mention? It doesn't have to be 3, just however many you want to. Is there any other aspect of that you want to address?
I'll start. I'll give one. PLSers are everywhere, and you bump into them in the most extraordinary places. And I think I texted you after I got back from Rome. I went to the UN Food and Agricultural Summit, and it was like 125 degrees in Rome, and we were racing to these meetings. And I'm due to speak on the private sector panel. And a woman, Shalini from BCG, comes up to me, and she's like, okay, we got 5 minutes before we go out on this panel. And she's like, wait a minute, were you in PLS? I was like, wait a minute, were you in PLS? And found out that we were in different classes, but clearly in the program. And she's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And within these short minutes, we aligned around a strategy about how we're going to represent, our partnership in terms of regenerative ag. And we are working together to this day. And it is delightful because there is something that runs deep when you are kind of paired with another PLSer. And it's been a delight to not only work with Shalini in this context, but other members of our cohort on different issues, and especially in the context of business with not-for-profits and government representatives. That kind of mix in terms of advancing and thinking about strategies and solutions to some big challenges is really magical.
Are there other examples of collaborations, either with you or that you know of in the program that?
I mean, we talk about going to watch one of our classmates, Samir Vora, throw out a Cubs first pitch.
There you go. Yeah.
We definitely collaborate on things like that too. It's not
Yeah.
just the serious stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of collaboration and connecting resources to different projects across the country. You see that's very common. Like, that's what we know we're supposed to do. So I don't know beyond that.
And Kathy, I think to your point, like, the network is so strong that even across classes, I am confident that if I reach out to someone on LinkedIn who's PLS and I don't know anybody else that knows them, that they will be responsive to a request that I have. I don't question that at all. And in general, to your point, when it is the hardest to be a leader, I think about my cohort mates. I think about my good friend, Chris Jones, who is also we were in the same class. And I think how disappointed I would make them if I did not step up. They make me want to be better.
Yeah. So we've had the program's not designed for this, but we've had a number of our alumni who have made the decision to run for office. And it is often the case that regardless of their party, their members of their cohort will show up and campaign and knock door to door and get to what we call now in the program, get to the fact territory of the individual and talk about the specifics and let people try to understand better that person. We do have a lot of examples. Lindsay Davis, who's at the Bush Center and helps us with our alumni efforts, done a great job of sort of collecting these examples of how people have collaborated over the years, and it really has been interesting in so many ways, but one of them is the bat signal. And so one of the things that our alumni learns is that if they need something or they have a question or a challenge, they have people in their cohort but when they get to a point, they'll just throw the bat signal up on our PLS site and know that people in other cohorts will respond. And so Gita Palapalli was producing a movie and was running into really a challenge, and finally just put it out there on the site and had one of the MDs from a cohort helped with managing COVID during the filming of that. Somebody else came with a really innovative way of generating revenue for the film, and they just helped. We had 2 doctors over COVID collaborated to start a vaccination drive that they called give it your best shot or something like that. I messed that up. I'm going to apologize to them for messing that up. Passing legislation to support veterans in Nebraska. A number of our alumni in PLS got together to do that. Huge effort in preserving the biodiversity of federally governed lands in this country, which took a number of years but involved members from many different cohorts in PLS. Just some of the ways in which folks have collaborated over the years. We're big believers in mystery in PLS, and so we don't know how it's going to happen. We just trust that it's going to happen in good ways, in different ways. And it kind of turns out to be that way sometimes. Okay, so that's discovery. That's collaboration. So the lesson for all of you is to open yourself up to others and their ideas, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it can really help you out, give you new ideas for doing things that maybe you hadn't thought of before. So not surprisingly, take action is the third thing we're supposed to talk about tonight. And there's no better value that represents the Clinton legacy than the idea of taking action. So PLS is not about sitting around talking about stuff. We get 60 people in every year that are doing things. And so I want to talk about either the projects that you came in with and how they maybe shifted or changed, and because they always do, or maybe some ways in which you really are relying on your PLS experience to guide the work you're currently doing. Okay. Jamie, we'll start with you.
Okay. I think some really two things that I'll never forget is President Clinton, we were at dinner, and he said, you know, every day, Jamie, you have to sign up to win for somebody else other than yourself. And President Bush told us, don't chase credit. Like, be humble. Don't be worried about the poll numbers. You see, I wasn't. And he would laugh. But I thought about those things, especially being a woman who is in the super minority in the Arkansas legislature. So not only am I a black woman, I am in the super minority. There's only 18 Democrats in the House out of 100. So I have to have relationships with a lot of people across the aisles who don't look like me. And growing up and being a young Dem in my party, truly active, and then going to a program like this program really helped me be, I think, a better politician and statesperson as far as how I approach policy, how I look at issues, how I get to know my colleagues. I really lean into people that I don't have anything, you know, in common with, and I go figure out what are they interested in, what's important to them, what are their values. You have more in common with people than you think. If you take the time to listen and get to know people, you find some value there. And as a result, I've been able to pass bipartisan legislation that has been meaningful to my community, and I did that with members of the other party leading it almost always because I built those relationships. But the foundation came from me just moving away from thinking about my party. When I cast a vote down there, I'm impacting 3 million Arkansans, not the 30,000 that I represent. And I remember what President Clinton told us. I remember what Bush told us. I'm not gonna always get the credit, and I don't have to. I'm gonna go and talk to somebody about this issue because I care about it. It's important to my community. How can you help me? I would get my bill every time and take it to the majority leader and say, help me with this. Take it home, read it. But I wouldn't have had that mindset to ask people who different than me to like help me with something in my community, because I just want to believe that people are better. I've seen that from both presidents who the world wanted to be against, but I saw their friendship in this program. And I was like, I want to be a different kind of legislator. I want to do stuff in the super minority as a black woman. I still want to be able to make an impact while I'm here. And I know I can do it, because I remember crying being at Lyndon B. Johnson's first time I've ever been there. I cried when we toured his ranch, and I saw all the legislation he passed and the impact he had on people. It was just so profound to me. And I left the program like, I'm running for office. And then I had my whole class like, yeah, we running. And so just being able to be exposed and be in environments and people push you beyond just what you've grown up in, the environment you've grown up in. And it just changed my mindset. You know, I am still very much so a liberal Democrat, but I will listen to people, and I will listen and really care about the issues that they're talking about. It doesn't mean I have to agree with them, but I'm listening so that I can figure out how can I help understand where you're coming from, and I want you to do the same. And then where can we go find some common ground so that we can pass some legislation? We passed the Crown Act recently, and it's a national bill, but there was a student in Fort Smith who had dreads, and so the college football coach or something said, basketball coach, he didn't want to recruit kids who look like him. And to me, if you have kids who are in higher ed, who not on the streets, who trying to make better in their lives, why would we want to prohibit them from being able to? We love the Razorbacks, right? And their hair is all over their heads. We support them. You know, we should have a society where people can show up as who they are and be respected and valued. And so I went to a Republican and asked her, hey, who who had never been discriminated against in her life. She has blonde, pretty hair. You know, she's from Russellville. And I said, do you know that people are being discriminated against because of their hair? But once again, being able from the PLS program to sit down and really talk to people. And when people know who you are, they know that I'm not trying to be the rising Democrat or the next star of my party. I really care about issues. So the program teaches you to get to know people. She knew it was something I really cared about, and she helped me pass that legislation. She never experienced that kind of discrimination in her life. And it's easy. It probably could have been easy for me to go get a Black Caucus member to do that, but the program has taught me, no, you go talk to people who don't look like you, who don't have the same values in you, and you try to bring them along in the fight. And so that's what I've learned from it. It's been an amazing experience for me to become a legislator after I went through the program, because it really helped me just shift my mindset, especially being in the super minority here. Like, I go build those relationships and talk to people. I mean, the majority leader made me a scarf. His wife made me a beautiful pink and purple scarf, but you get to know people and they become your friends. Our voting record is, completely, but if you get to listen to people and you get to know them and you know what they care about, you can find things to work on. We don't have to be so a hateful country where we don't value people who don't look like us and who don't, have the same voting records as us. I still care about you as an individual, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to make sure that I can make sure you have a better quality life in Arkansas as an Arkansas state legislator. And I do attribute a lot of my mindset to policy to my experience in the presidential leadership program. So I'm grateful for President Bush, President Clinton, and I think President Senior Bush died while I was in program. Yeah. And his administration, and something he told us is that he said something and it made me think about the situation that the country is in right now, is that the Constitution, the Republic is not held up by the Constitution. It's by the character of that individual. And that democracy is not just at the top, just with the top person at the top. And we heard President Biden just say a lot of that. And it made me think about, that is in my notes from Senior Bush class when we had with him, because I got, like her, I got pages of notes I still have. It's in my purse in the bed because I was trying to go through my notes, just trying to make sure I was prepared. But I was just thinking about how transformational these leaders and presidents have been with this program and the nuggets they've deposited into all of us. So I had a project and I still do my project, but the most thing that has been impactful is just, I think, their presence and what they left with us in each session. So I'm truly grateful. And I hope that the state benefits from my leadership at the Arkansas, Capitol, from what's been deposited to me in the program.
That's, it reminds me that we have every year we have a certain number, not a large number, but a handful of scholars in the program that during the program decide to leave their careers. It may have been in your class, I can't remember. It was a couple years ago where we came to Little Rock. The second module was in Little Rock, and I'm standing, and everybody's coming in, and I'm shaking everybody's hands, we're hugging as everybody's coming in, and one of the scholars comes up to me and said, Mike, guess what? I said, what? I quit my job. I said, you did? What are you going to do? She said, I don't know. So there's a certain impact where I think for a lot of the people, some of the people that participate in the program, they start thinking about the way they do want to act into the world and the problems they do want to focus on and the way they want to focus on them, and where they realize that what they're currently doing is not achieving that for themselves. And I think for everybody, it gives them a different sense of how their actions can be changed in order to have a bigger impact. So Kathy, it's sort of, anything else you want to add to that? And then I'm going to ask you, Allison, I'm going to ask Allison a specific question.
First of all, I think we need to just pause and to say what an exceptional experience it is to have Mike and the team from the Clinton Foundation, the team from the Bush Center. I mean, they're extraordinary. And poor Mike, he's like, I'm open. If you all have any questions about your projects, please come see me. So I get on the phone with him, like, okay, I've got 6 problems. And so I got 6 projects going right now. I'm not sure which one to see. He's like, oh gosh. And he listened to all 6 of my issues and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And, having that kind of support is extraordinary. And, I'm working on all 6 still. Yeah. And more importantly, I think one of the things that Mike would always stress to us, it's not about the end. It's about how you get through this journey. and the twists and turns of the challenges that you're facing and where it will take you, and the positions that you're in to make critical decisions. And what we learn is how to handle that. And so while I've advanced all 6 of them, some of the ways that I've gone about achieving progress has been all about, some compromise, some influencing, some collaboration, and some just, I need a different strategy. And not being afraid to stand up and speak truth to power. And I've been doing a lot of that lately. And I don't think I could have gone into some of these meetings without having, the experience at PLS.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. So Allison, the last question, and it's still this notion of action. But we did get a question from the audience about, it's sort of in the political context and referencing Governor Hutchinson running in his presidential campaign and him noting the lack of serious policy discussion in political debates. And so the question is, what can we do to effectively shift our conversations back to more substantive and issue-focused dialogue in both politics and business?
So Governor Hutchinson and I have worked together off and on for 25 years. And the reason that I came back to Arkansas to be his chief of staff was because I knew that he would listen to divergent opinions, that he sought out discourse with others who did not think like him, and that he would actually take that perspective into account. And so in PLS, that was reinforced, of course, but it was a day-to-day practice that he ingrained in everyone who has worked with him, but that I was responsible for carrying out as the chief of staff in his administration. And so I don't want this to be oversimplified or sound oversimplified, because it is very hard work, but actively seeking out people who are going to have a different perspective is key and crucial to that respectful discourse and for the edification of everyone in the conversation. And so I was very blessed to sit at the knee of someone who did this on a daily basis and to train me to do it on a regular basis, and for that to be reinforced in the PLS program.
Thank you. Yeah. So discover, open yourself up to the positions and attitudes that others have, because you'll learn more about them and you'll learn more about yourself. Collaborate, be willing to work with others. And then action. Don't sit around and just talk about stuff. Do something. And it doesn't have to be a grand thing. As I told you at the very beginning, in PLS, scale doesn't matter to us. And so the project may be very local, and on just somebody's neighborhood, the project may be bigger than that, and we're fine with that. What we're looking for are people who are trying to affect some sort of change in their community. I want to say just a couple things before we wrap up. One of the things that I enjoy about PLS is it represents a through line with the Clinton Foundation. It's really unique because it does involve a partnership with all the other presidential centers. But if I can look at what we do in the foundation with bringing school kids to this campus for field trips, and then the Student Presidential Leadership Series that just opened up last week with a large number of high school kids from all over the state having a similar kind of experience and learning about leadership, and taking those ideas to help them become active leaders at their schools and in their communities, and then thinking about moving from high school to college, and the Clinton Global Initiative University that we do, in which we bring college students from all over the world who come, all with projects and actions that they're working on to try to make their communities a better place. And then the Clinton School of Public Service, when they get out of college, we have the graduate program here, which focuses on an academic approach to face-to-face grassroots change, social change. And then PLS, and then finally the Clinton Global Initiative, which is getting ready to have their meeting coming up in September. And through that line is reflected the Clinton values And President Clinton's legacy around the notion of providing opportunity for people, taking those opportunities seriously and being responsible about them, and doing that as a community. The PLS is a community-driven effort, and I just want to say at the very end here and give a word of thanks to the 4 executive directors of the presidential centers that are involved in this. Stephanie Street here at the Clinton Center, David Kramer at the Bush Institute in Dallas, Andy Card, who is at the Bush Center in College Station, and Mark Updegrove at LBJ. And I also want to just mention Kelly Jew, Casey Rodriguez, Royce Wu, Kinsey Clemmer, and Kristen Spanos at the Bush Institute, who are part of the PLS team, and none of this happens without their involvement. Sarah Horowitz in the Clinton Foundation, Mira Merchant, who's been working with us, Ben Thielmeyer, Azalea, who helps us with our communication efforts locally with the program. Those are all individuals who have given a lot of time and effort into this program and made this experience really what it's been. You've heard 3 of our alumni speak to you tonight about the experiences that they've had and their insights into leadership. The 10 years I've spent with PLS have been the most rewarding of my career, because every year I get to meet 60 more people just like this and work with them. And it just makes me proud to see the work that they do. Would you please thank our guests for joining us tonight? And normally we'd have somebody who would come up and say, well, that's going to wrap us up for the evening, but that person's going to be me, so that's going to wrap us up for the evening. Thank you all for being here. We really do appreciate it.